Hello, this is Mr. Panza, and welcome to a Wax Museum video. This video will be focused on the reading and research portion of the project. Reading and research is perhaps the most important part of the project. If you don't read, you're not going to be able to complete the rest of the project with effectiveness. And if you don't do the reading and research, then you won't be able to get to the end of this project. If you do read and research effectively, then the rest of the project is going to be a lot of fun. First, let's talk about the reading. Everybody has picked out a biography book or a biography picture book. In this case, I'm going to use an example of Robert Fulton. The biography book looks like this, and this is how it starts. Robert Fulton was born in 1765. He grew up in Pennsylvania. Robert had many skills. He liked to draw and to experiment with machines. I have a lot of information there. So what I've been encouraging students to do is in their daily reading log, fill in, like they normally would, all of the information at the top. The student's name, the title of the book, the author of the book, and I've added this one portion right here, which is where they would write the person that they are studying for their wax museum. I've also already filled in the biography portion right here. Now they write down the school, it's May 3rd and the year that it is. I read pages 1 through 5 of a 24-page bio book. And then I can write down my response. The students will be completing some of this at school and some of this at home. So the information I pulled from the first 5 pages is the fact that Robert Fulton was a Lancaster, PA native with many skills. As a boy, he liked drawing and experimenting. Now we've got to move on to the research. Once students have started to read and write down and respond in their general daily logs, they're going to start to research on the paper that looks like this. This is your research outline form. Today I'm going to show you each of the sections, but first I'm going to show you how you can use information like we saw in the first portion to fill in parts of the research form. Notice that in my daily reading log, I wrote down Roman numerals 1 and 2. That's because the information that I read is going to answer some of the parts in my outline for Roman numeral 1 and 2. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Notice that when I read and responded, I wrote down that he was from Lancaster, PA, he had many skills, and he was a boy that liked drawing and experimenting. Where did I find that information? Right from the book. That's what I read. I also wrote it in a different way. I don't want to plagiarize, which means taking these words exactly and writing them as my own. Instead, I wrote it in a different way. And now that I have that information, I'm ready to take a look at my research. My research page has Roman numerals that separates the different paragraphs, or which will eventually become your paragraphs. You still need to write down your name and the person for the Wax Museum's name, but then you're really focused on all of these different letters. A wants you to introduce the person. B wants you to name the person. C wants you to give 3 character traits or skills. Roman numeral 2 talks about the early life, the birth date, their birthplace, and their family, as well as their education, which is on the next page. Which is why, when I read and responded, I was able to fill in everything you see in black. I was able to fill in B because I found out when I read that his name was Robert Fulton. I was also able to fill in one of the character traits. They said that he was a skillful boy, so I can certainly put down skillful for one of his character traits. In Roman numeral 2, I filled in his birth year because that's at least what I've been given so far, and my hope is that as I continue to read, I'll get the rest of his birth date information. His birthplace was Pennsylvania. I got that information from the book, and you notice that I responded in here that he was from Lancaster, PA. That's from prior knowledge. I can fill that in as well. I don't have anything about his family yet, and because I'm not exactly sure yet, based on the fact that my book hasn't told me that, I'm not exactly sure what is the most important thing that he's known for, so I did not put anything in the introduce your person yet. I've put that here in red so that you know what to put. This is what your person is most known for. Once you find that from reading your book, which again is here, you place that on this line. So now that I've read just one night, I've already filled in some of my research form, and that's how the rest of this research form will go. Let me take you through the rest of the research form so you know exactly what we're looking for each of these different Roman numerals and letters as we continue throughout the research portion of this project. Because again, the reading and research is the most important part of this project. Let's take a look at the outline research form together, step by step. Okay, so we are officially ready for the reading and research portion of this project. Now, there's always a couple of questions that come up during the research portion, so we tried to address any of those questions by outlining what we're looking for with each question. I actually just ran through this with a bunch of my students in my class right now. I'd like to thank them for correcting all of my spelling mistakes, because anybody who knows me knows that I'm not the best speller, so I appreciate those students. And I appreciate you checking out this video, because it's going to help your student really do the best job on this project. So this is the biography project outline form for your notes. You need to have your name at the top, as well as the person's name that you are performing in the Wax Museum. For example, if you're reading on Ben Franklin, you need to put Ben Franklin on this second line. Let's take a look at Roman numeral 1. That's our opening. When we ask you to introduce your person, we want you to tell us what your person is most known for. Some examples are being famous. Maybe they're an athlete like a baseball player. Perhaps they're Houdini, a famous magician, or an inventor. Add that right here. When we ask for their name, we want their full name, including middle if they have it, and if you learn of their nickname, you can certainly put that here as well. Just don't only include the nickname. Please make sure you have their full name. Character traits. These character traits summarize the big picture, what we're calling the big picture of your person. Specifically, we can think about the Conestoga Valley character traits that we've learned, and that will help you get it started. Some examples of those traits would be patience, perseverance, responsibilities, and many others. That brings us to Roman numeral 2. A lot of this is self-explanatory, like birthplace on B, but A, birth date, we're looking for month, day, and year if you have that information. Family gets a little bit more tricky, so let's talk a little bit more detailed about that. When you're talking about their family, you want to know the family that they were born into, the siblings that they grew up with, their parents. Where they fell in birth order could also be something that you talk about here. Also, I want you to include their current family, for example, their spouse. Do they have any children? You can also include where they lived or a defining moment in their family history. An example of a defining moment in their family history would be the death of a parent or the death of a role model that impacted their life. Let's flip it onto the back and finish Roman numeral 2 with education. Here we're looking to see if they had any traditional education or homeschooling. Maybe they taught themselves. Did they go to college? There's other options as well. What kind of education did they actually receive in their specialty? So if they were a famous dancer, did they take dance lessons or go to dance school? If they were an athlete, did they visit sports camps? Did they work in an apprenticeship until they actually took over a business? Or other opportunities to learn is what you're including in education. That brings us to the person's middle life. Major events that happened in their life could be the big events that happened to them or around them that influenced their life and what they became. For example, it may also be influential people or role models in their life, or things that happened to those influential people or role models that ultimately impacted the person that you are studying's life. Goals. What did they set out to do? What was their passion? What type of steps did they have to achieving that goal? Obstacles or adversity. I know many students know what this exactly is, but maybe they've never seen these words before. Think of it as something that potentially either did get in their way or could have gotten in their way. For example, was money an issue, their finances? Was their attitude or other people's attitudes an issue? Did people say that they couldn't do it? Did they have previous failures? Or was there certain tragic events that happened in their life that stopped them from accomplishing goals? Once we're done with the obstacle and adversity, you can flip it to our final page, the later life and the closing. In later life, we want to know what they contributed to the society or world. What does the world know them for? And what did they give back to others through the fact that they became a famous person that you researched? Other information could be any other interesting fact, moment, or just fun information that you learned about the person or you think people would be interested in hearing about or learning about based on what you've read and researched. And finally, Roman numeral 5. In closing, we're looking for when or if they have passed away. And if they did pass away, you just tell us how. Maybe they had a sickness or a disease or something came along. Maybe they died just because it was their time and it was a matter of the way that they passed away. However, if they're still living, then on this line you're going to tell us what they're currently doing. You restate your introduction and your conclusion, and you're all done with the most important part of this project, which is reading the book and researching the book. I hope this helps you out with probably the most important part of this project. If you have any other questions, feel free to email any of the teachers below on the website. Have a great night.